So we learned about stateful widgets, the other type of widget you can create in Flutter, which differs from the stateless widget in that it can manage internal data. Well, you could do that in a stateless widget too. You can do that in any Dart class after all. But in a stateful widget, if you manage that internal data, actually in the state object then, which is connected to the stateful widget, you can update this in a way that it's picked up by Flutter and that the UI also updates. Now that's nice. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into Dart at this point. Let me show you one alternative syntax here, which I would recommend using because it is a common pattern and a common practice, and you'll see it in other official examples, and we'll also use it throughout the rest of the course. In Dart, you can have variables on classes like question index, and you call these variables properties then. And you can have functions in classes, and they are called methods then. Now that's not new. Now in Dart, you also can put your code into more than just one file. We only used one file thus far, but actually I'm already importing something from that material Dart file, which is exposed by the Flutter package. Now, as a default in Dart, every file is its own enclosed ecosystem, you could say, its own so-called library, which can be a confusing name because we have the lib folder that makes up a bigger library. But in the end, every file in that folder is its own mini library. These files can still work together with the help of import statements, but you can control what can be imported and what can be accessed in another file. And for example, you might want to restrict that this state object can be used and changed from inside another file. Now we only have that file here, right? But we'll soon add more files, and then we want to make sure that we can maybe use our widget in other files, because we are, for example, also using the Material app or the scaffold widgets, which we get from Material Dart. But in these widgets, we might not want to grant access to all the properties that are in there. Or to this class, we might not want to grant access at all from inside our files. Because the only thing that should use this class is the MyApp class here, which needs the MyAppState class to create that state. Now, of course, we as a developer, we are writing our own code, and we can simply not use that class anywhere else, and we're fine. But if you're working in a bigger team, or if you're sharing your application with other developers, then you might want to put some protection into place so that the MyApp state can't be used or manipulated from outside this file. Because if it could be manipulated from outside, then maybe you could change question index from inside another file, and that wouldn't be picked up by that widget correctly, and your app might therefore get out of sync, or you might introduce weird bugs. Now, to inform Dart that this MyAppState class should only be usable from inside the main Dart file, so from inside the file where it's defined, you add a leading underscore in front of the name. And of course, you also have to add that in all the places where you use that name. Now, this might look like a cosmetic thing, but actually that leading underscore is a special syntax in Dart, and it turns this class, which normally is a public class, which means it can be used in any file which imports the main Dart file. This turns it from a public into a private class. And now MyAppState is a class that can only be used inside the main Dart file. So in our case, only in that MyApp class here. And that's what I want, because since this state works together with this class, it should really only be usable inside the same file where the MyApp class lives. So that is a common syntax you see. And on the same page, this variable and this method should also only be accessible from inside that file. Hence, we can add an underscore in front of question index, and then also again in all the places where we reference question index to signal that this should be a private property of this class here, which means we can't access it from anywhere else in our project. And let's do the same for this answer question function, or method as it is then called. Let's add an underscore in front of it, and then also add an underscore here. Again, this is basically a convention I'm following here. However, it's not just a cosmetic change, it really has an impact. It is a syntax understood by Dart. It doesn't change the way our app works right now, but now we really ensure that my app state and all the properties and methods in there can't be used from anywhere else than inside this file. And that is really important.